Hello and welcome to the Cowboy Chronicles, the Oklahoman's Oklahoma State football podcast. I am your host, Scott Wright, joined by Jacob Unruh, and we're back a Tuesday night here at Stone Cloud. Once again, big night. They got live music in the back. We got some other details about other things they got coming up. Always fun being here, man.
It's such a great place. The weather's great.
Right?
There's Halloween stuff going on around the neighborhood and down Main Street over here. You've got a pop-up Venezuelan pop-up here tonight for food. You've got the live music, like I said, and you got the beer.
Exactly.
We can't go wrong with the beer.
No. Hey, really quick, you mentioned Halloween stuff down there. How cool would that have been when you were a kid?
Right?
Because you know you got Halloween coming up. Oh, like there's going to be places doing it probably Saturday.
Yeah.
Then you got it again Monday. Now you get an early one.
I never was this lucky when I was a kid.
No, not at all. That'd be incredible. All right, well, we're going to get into we'll look a little bit back at the Texas win, though we did most of that in our post-game podcast. We'll look ahead to this week against Kansas State. Like I mentioned, we got some interesting things going on here at Stone Cloud that I'll update you on in case you're going to be in Stillwater on Saturday. They got some fun stuff planned. We'll talk about what we'll take the fans behind the scenes to our visit with the players tonight, which was I thought entertaining.
It was a good night.
It was a fun night.
It was a very good night.
Good diverse group of personalities that we got to talk to. So we'll get into all of that. Got to remember, we want the fans to put their score predictions. If you're watching on YouTube, throw them in the comments on YouTube. And with that, while I go up and look at last week's winner, what you got in the glass there tonight, Jacob?
Well, I'm actually having a fun one tonight. Stone Cloud last week put out a beer in a collaboration with Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt called Holt My Beer, which is just a wonderful name for a beer. Just a wonderful name for a beer. I think it's a New England IPA. It's an IPA for sure. 8%. Holt My Beer. I believe all the cans they produce have sold out.
That's my understanding.
There's, I think, a few reserved for an event they have in Oklahoma City. But it's a wonderful beer. I fully support this beer and the mayor, too, because of the beer.
Yeah.
And, love it. It's actually really good. So cheers to Mayor Holt and Stone Cloud for their beer.
That's right. And they, even though the cans are sold out, they do have it on tap here and on tap in Oklahoma City still, from what I understand. So go check that out. This, of course, is not my beer. That's
true.
This is Blaine Main's beer. Blaine Main won the score prediction contest. Again, go put your score predictions for Oklahoma State, Kansas State down in the comments. Have a chance to win a free beer that we will drink for you next week on the show.
Congratulations, Blaine. What are you drinking, Blaine?
Blaine Main. But first, he predicted 37-32. Only missed the score by 6 total points.
Yeah, that's pretty
really
good.
Really well done.
That's pretty good.
And so tonight, Blaine is drinking Memory Garden, which is done to support Alzheimer's Foundation. So really cool stuff that they do. They do a lot of stuff like that here at Stone Cloud.
They really do. They do a lot of stuff for animals, for people. And that one hits a little home for me too because my wife's grandma, I think, passed away from Alzheimer's back before I knew my wife, and so there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So Blaine, cheers to you. Thanks for the beer.
Yeah, good job, Blaine. Also remind you to subscribe to our. That's good.
Yeah, that's delicious.
Great. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's another winner for Stone Cloud. I also want to remind people to subscribe to our newsletter.
That's right.
All about OSU stuff. It's handled. It's really good stuff. You want to catch up with what we're writing, what other people are thinking too. But there'll be a link on the screen. Go to subscribe to our newsletter.
Exactly. All right. With that, take a look back real quick at the Texas game. Obviously, ridiculous game. We covered as much as we could in the post-game podcast.
Still crazy. Still things I forget about.
Right. So many little things that popped up, from the early struggles that Oklahoma State had, where it literally felt they had no chance to dig themselves out of that hole. And then you get to halftime, and they're only down by a touchdown. Felt like they should have been down 3. And then they immediately get themselves right back in the game. They stay in it. The defense has the obviously the great second half, holds Texas to a field goal. Spencer Sanders comes and throws a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Boom, you got yourself a 7-point victory over a top 25 team.
Yeah, I got thinking about this. It seems a little bit similar to last year in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it turned on a pick 6 by Jason Taylor.
Right.
But they were going to go down 3 touchdowns at that point, and they were getting dominated in that first half by Texas. Again, they couldn't stop Bijan Robinson. They couldn't get the stops they needed, and then all of a sudden that happens. Things flipped in the second half. They dominated Texas again, and Texas somehow got away from Bijan Robinson 2 straight years against OSU. I don't know why they stopped giving the ball to Bijan Robinson.
No.
Or Roschon Johnson for all that matters.
They were both running like crazy.
It just was eerily similar to me.
Absolutely was, yeah. Last year it turned more dramatically and a little bit earlier.
Yes.
But it was still very, very similar. By early second quarter, you felt that Oklahoma State was going to get run off the field by that Texas team. And it obviously it didn't feel like that was going to happen, but you just didn't feel like they were going to be able to dig themselves out of the hole that they had created with all the mistakes, all the miscues in the first half. You think they threw Spencer Sanders throws an interception in the end zone. They miss a field goal right before half. They literally could have been ahead at halftime in that game, and that would have been mind-blowing.
Yeah, I would have just been insane.
Yeah.
And honestly, maybe it would have hurt them if they were ahead.
It might
have fired Texas up a little bit more.
Might have changed the dynamic of the game. Now, the lingering concerns, I think, are really the same concerns that we talked about going into the game. Run the ball, stop the run.
Yes.
And I don't know how well this team can sustain itself long term when you can't do those two things. They're going to have to figure some things out with those two things. Kansas State's obviously going to challenge you in a lot of areas with both of those, so that's important this week. But long term, they've got to figure out a way to run the ball better. Although Mike Gundy pointed out the running backs were up over 4 yards a carry, running backs only. Spencer's numbers brought that down a little bit. But still, it took a while to get that going. It took a 51-yard run by Jaden Nixon to bump that average up. And stopping the run, they've gotten worse the last 2 weeks. You know, 5.2 against TCU, 5.2 yards a carry, 6.4 against Texas. They've got to figure out how to shore those two things up.
Because then they got Deuce Vaughn.
Right.
And maybe Adrian Martinez, who's a game-time decision.
Right.
But you're dealing with two dynamic runners and in a run-heavy offense that just seems like this could be very problematic.
Yeah, it's a scary situation when you look back at the first half, what Texas was able to do with big plays in the run game or with the running backs, getting the running backs out into the flat and hitting them for big plays on passes. That's the type of stuff where Deuce Vaughn can really hurt you. He's obviously a very different type of back than either Robinson or Johnson. They list him at 5'6". I don't even know if that's very accurate.
It's generous. I remember standing near him at Big 12 Media Days. It's generous.
He's a little dude, but, man, he is talented.
Yeah.
Incredibly gifted. And he's going to find creases if you leave any. He's going to run through tackles if you give him the opportunity. That's obviously been something else that this team has struggled with the last 2 weeks. So a lot to fix in both of those areas, I think, that are glaring issues when you look back at what happened against Texas. So now Spencer Sanders obviously has been playing with a lot of pain. Seems like he's worked his way back into more practice than he had. Obviously didn't practice at all before the TCU game. Mike Gundy, there's no words getting out in terms of what the actual situation is. They've clamped down everything. But it does sound like he has worked his way back into a little bit of practice. I assume they're not throwing it a ton with him just to manage pain with that shoulder. But his toughness, and I wrote about this for Monday's paper, and we talked about it on the podcast, the toughness that he brings to this team, not only for what he literally does on the football field, but just everybody around him that is infected by what he is doing is it might be the most important element of this entire team.
Yeah, you see teammates believe in other teammates a lot, but there's just this unquestioned, this unwavering support that you don't see a lot.
Right.
It's a new level with this team.
Yeah.
With Spencer. And he's earned it, I think. I mean,
absolutely.
He's a 4-year starter. He's gutting this out. You've got to keep him on the field because as I've said to people, you can't lose him. You can't lose Jason Taylor for an extended period of time.
Right. No, I agree. And we'll talk more about Jason here in a minute as we get into the Kansas State game. A lot of injuries that we could discuss, but as we said, Mike Gundy has put up the wall in terms of any news about injuries getting out. So it's a whole lot of speculation on our part at this point. Very hard to have any idea what the status of anybody is, whether it's Dominic Richardson, Hunter Woodard. Preston Wilson didn't get hurt last week, but he's been out a couple of weeks, was suited up. Looked like he might try to play whenever Joe Michalski got hurt, but then Michalski went back in. I don't think Wilson was going to play.
I don't think so. I think it was Eli Russ.
I think Wilson wanted to play.
Yeah.
It's two different things there. But yeah, Jason Taylor, Thomas Harper missed the game. We'll talk more about Jabbar Muhammad moving over to that slot cover spot. A lot of injuries, and I didn't even list them all. I didn't even get into any of the receivers who are already hurt.
No.
All of that, but tons of injuries that are impacting this team right now, and they continue to persevere through all of that. They're flexing their depth muscle right now, and it's been really impressive. One of the injuries I do want to discuss, Brendan Evers. This all happened after we recorded the podcast last week. He comes out and announces that he's going to have to miss the rest of the season, try to get himself healthy to have a shot at the NFL. I know there was a vocal but small minority of Oklahoma State fans that took some shots at him on social media, as social media people will do. Very unfair stuff. People that didn't have a clue what was actually going on. In all my time covering college football, maybe even high school football, probably high school football, I don't know if I've seen anyone. Okay, let me rephrase this. If I listed the top 5 guys throughout my journalism career who have given the most of their bodies to a team, to a program, 2 of the top 5 are on this team right now.
Yes.
One being Brendan Evers and Brock Martin being the other.
Absolutely.
What those 2 guys have done in terms of sustaining injuries, withstanding pain, and going out and competing at every possible opportunity is unfathomable to me.
Yeah, and for like a guy like Evers to get that kind of criticism, first of all, I think the things he posted end up being awarded poorly.
That's fair.
He's not leaving
fair.
the team. It sounded like
Right.
he was just leaving the team
Right.
to go have surgery and go focus on the NFL draft. He's still with the program. He was on the sideline Saturday in his uniform, obviously without pads, but he was there with the uniform on.
Right.
He's still around the team. They're hoping he's still around the team. He has a shoulder injury again. This
Right.
guy had 2 reconstructive shoulder surgeries this last offseason.
Right.
He hurts it in game 1 again. Tries to play through it. He missed the Arkansas Pine Bluff game,
Right.
which was a game that they didn't need him.
Right.
So that's just a thing to try to get him, make sure he's healthy. And so they did that. He decides he can't go anymore, and so he needs to shut it down. And for his future, and I can't fault the guy for that. I mean, this guy's had other shoulder reconstructive surgeries. This isn't the first ones he's had.
Right.
He's had shoulder injuries he thought he was in his career before last season. He's had other injuries. I think he told me at one point this season he and Brock Martin are kind of in a competition. Not really, but he joked that they're in a competition for the most surgeries.
Right.
And it's not really – it's a joke that they're in that competition, but it's serious. They've had the most surgeries on this team. Brock Martin is hurt right now too and is trying to play through some things. Didn't play last week, but I don't expect him to miss more than a game just because of who he is.
Yeah.
He's got he probably had a pack of Marlboros and is ready to go. I mean,
Right.
come on. I mean, I don't know. I didn't enjoy that aspect that Brendan had to go through last week because I didn't think it was fair at all.
No.
For a kid that's done so much, has grown with this program. He's been there 6 years now.
Right.
He's played over 50 games.
Mm-hmm.
Started over 50 games, I think, right? Or played?
I think played, yeah.
Played. And was such a huge part of this defense. All he talked about was there was no championship banner behind them, and there was no championship banner in the indoor facility or anything like that, and how much he wanted that. So this agonized him.
Right.
And I wrote about his adoption this year. He was adopted. He wants to do a bunch of stuff for NIL with his NIL opportunities for adoption. I don't know if that's still in play. It could be impacted by him not being active player anymore, but that's his plan in November is to do all that stuff. So the idea of walking away from some of this stuff has really got to be agonizing for him.
Absolutely. The idea that this was some sort of selfish decision is so far off the mark. It's
he's got 3 degrees coming in December.
Right.
Like his 3rd degree is coming.
Yeah,
it's unreal.
It is. His level of commitment is off the charts, impressive, and we all know, and I think Brendan knows, that he is a long shot NFL guy.
Mm-hmm.
At his size,
his injuries are the biggest factor.
His
really,
health, yeah, everything that he's been through to this point, he's got one shot, and from what I understand, he probably wouldn't have played had he not made this decision already. Probably wouldn't have played against Texas. Mm-hmm. When he might have gotten back is a little bit up in the air. Might have missed a few games, and then he would have got to the end of the season. Had to play through pain, still not been fully healthy, and then got to the end of the season. Then had to have this surgery. Then he misses pro day, which is probably his only.
He's not
ticket.
going to the combine.
No, he's not going to the combine. He's got to be healthy for pro day if he's going to have any shot, and he wasn't going to be able to help his team the way that he's been able to. So it makes total sense. It's completely logical what he has done. Like you said, his tweet wasn't necessarily worded ideally. It made him look worse than what he deserved. But that being said, there's a lot more to the story, and the decision he is making is the right one for him. I think it's pretty obvious about that. All right. Now, I completely spaced out.
I've got on my soapbox here a little bit. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. We're gonna look ahead, but I forgot to tell the people about the Monster Mash coming up on Saturday.
Oh, the Monster Mash.
I teased it.
Mash.
Exactly. I teased it. Completely forgot to give them all the details because they got a lot of fun stuff going on here at Stone Cloud on Saturday. If you're not going up to Kansas State for the game, like we are, and unfortunately we won't be able. We can't even make it back in time.
No,
so we
can't.
Get to be here either.
No, 2:30 kickoffs, man.
Right?
They're
making it tough.
5 in a row now. They're killing us.
They got stuff going on exactly every week. Just keeps happening. But they got stuff going on all day on Saturday the 29th. Come up here and check it out. They've got a pet costume contest. The winner for that will be announced at 4 p.m. We got Three Dog Bakery creating something truly special for the winners, they say.
Oh.
A human costume contest.
Okay,
the winner
that's
of
not
that,
as exciting as the dog one.
No, not as exciting. But the winner for that will be announced at 9 p.m., so you want to be here before 9 p.m. to be part of that.
Yeah.
And they promised epic prizes for that one.
Okay. Hope beer is a prize.
Right?
That's epic enough for me at Stone Cloud.
And the tap room will be quite spooky, they say.
Ooh.
So there you go. So come check it out at Stone Cloud on Saturday if you're not going up to Stillwater or up to Manhattan, Kansas. If you're here in Stillwater, 917 South Husband in Stillwater, they'll have the game on here. Come watch it, drink some beer, watch some pets in costumes. It'll be a great time. All right, let's look a little bit more ahead to this week against Kansas State. I mentioned we want to talk about Jason Taylor. Obviously, you reported on Saturday night that his mom had posted a Facebook Live video saying that they believe the injury was a hyperextension.
Yes, he was walking with crutches, both
right.
feet on the ground. He was just kind of the support.
No big braces.
No braces
like
that I could see. Seemed to be okay. We don't know anything after that, though. There's not been an update. But I still am on the record, and I will stick by this. If he has to miss an extended time, that's big-time trouble for OSU.
It really is. When you factor in the fact that Thomas Harper was already out, we don't know when he's going to return. You take away another safety, and the most important one, the glue of that group in the really I think the entire back seven is I mean Taylor is that guy, and they need him on the field to hold things together back there. I think if there's a week you can survive without him, maybe this is it, because you're not terribly terrified of Kansas State's passing game.
Right.
But at the same time, you take both of those guys, he and Harper, out, you're losing a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And that becomes really scary at that point.
Yeah, because then what do? You do Sean Michael Flanagan, Kendall Daniels, Jabbar Muhammad probably still plays safety again, and then you know, it gets real dicey then with the experience at that position. Mike said that he doesn't know what they're going to do if they're both out. He was going to meet today. So we talked to him yesterday on Monday. He's going to figure out the plan if they were both out today on Tuesday. So I guess we'll see.
Right.
You know, I just don't. A hyperextended knee like that, the kind of injury it was, looked bad.
It absolutely
and hyperextended is very fortunate if that's all it is.
Right. When you watch that play, it looks very easy that he could have destroyed some stuff in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it's just a hyperextension, he's in really good shape to come out of that with just that. So, this kind of leads us into our chat about what the players had to say tonight, because I got to talk to Jabbar Muhammad quite a bit. We visited with Jabbar Muhammad, Brendan Presley, Colin Clay, who is definitely worth talking about this week, especially after all our Evers conversation, and Taylor Materko on the offensive line. I'll start with Muhammad, because everybody was curious about this move from corner into to that cover safety position. That's sort of a nickel position.
The Tanner McAllister position.
Yeah, exactly. and they've always kind of liked guys that have corner skills at that spot. I mean, McAllister started as a corner, moved inside. Harper started as a corner, moved inside, and Muhammad, they came to him on Wednesday of last week, said, "Hey, we're not going to have Thomas. We're going to need you. We're going to need you on the field at this position." And obviously, I don't think this would have been possible had it not been for the other injuries they had dealt with, particularly with Corey Black on the other side, to get Cam Smith the level of experience that they've been able to get him the last few weeks, so that they feel comfortable putting him on the field.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is a guy who was a third teamer 3 weeks ago. He's come in and played well, with Corey Black first injured and then DeMarco Jones also injured. That said, that comfort level, I think, allowed them to make this move with Muhammad, which I thought was a really intelligent move by whether it was Gundy, Derek Mason, Hammerschmidt, Duffy. I don't know exactly who had the idea, but whoever it was, this was really smart, especially against Texas, where you've got guys in the slot that have a chance to hurt you. Xavier Worthy is all over the place in terms of where he lines up, so you've got opportunities to get hurt if you have a young guy in that spot. Putting Muhammad there really panned out well. It was obviously very different for him. Covering in space is different than covering when you've got a boundary next to you and you've got less space to worry about covering. He talked about that challenge. He says he's played some nickel in the defense in fall camp, so this wasn't a completely new move. But he said that they felt comfortable with his knowledge of the defense to step in there, play that position, know and understand all the calls and all of those things. He said he still struggled a little bit, didn't always get lined up correctly all night long, but felt pretty comfortable with what he was being asked to do in that spot. Played pretty well. For a guy that had 2 days of practice basically at that position. I thought he played incredibly well.
Yeah, and look at the numbers Xavier Worthy had. Yeah, Xavier Worthy had some big plays, but he was targeted, 19 times, 16 times?
Something ridiculous.
Between 16 and 19 times. I don't have the stats in front of me, obviously. And only caught 4 passes. And Muhammad wasn't there on all those, but you add that speed element, and I think it really kind of changed the deep game for Texas.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, you don't necessarily need that this week against Kansas State. I don't think they have guys that can burn OSU with that speed like Worthy, but it's good to have options.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You've got some versatility now, and you're maybe not quite as scared about the issue we were discussing earlier with both Harper and Taylor out, because you do have another guy who's come in and played the nickel spot. You've got 2 guys that have played, being Sean Michael Flanagan and Kendall Daniels, in the other safety spot. So maybe you think at this point Flanagan is comfortable enough to step over and play that spot where Taylor's been playing. So you could have some guys on the field that you feel very comfortable with. Yeah. And that's a better situation than they might have thought they were in if this had happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as Muhammad, that's really about everything that was discussed. It was
very,
really
very on point. Huh?
It was a very hardcore football conversation about the challenges he faced and understanding when he was going to have to come up in being involved in the run game. Most of it was done in the passing game because he is a cover corner.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff was not too nerve-wracking for him. He felt very comfortable in what he was being asked. He likes that he's getting the opportunity to be a little bit more diverse in what he does. So that's some really important stuff for him going forward in terms of rounding out the player he can become. So really valuable opportunity for him in that respect. So now you got to visit for quite a while with Colin Clay. I took to him as well, but you got to chat with him for a good long while.
Colin Clay earned his first start of his Cowboys career in place of Brendan Evers. Clay has had an interesting journey. I covered him in high school at Putnam City High. He was an edge rusher then, and just had a high motor, very skilled guy. OSU missed out on him. He goes to Arkansas, plays a lot as a freshman, has a good freshman year.
Right.
His coach gets fired with 2 games left in the season. He decides he needs to transfer. He was honest. He said, my family couldn't afford to go to every game in Arkansas. Couldn't afford to make the 3.5-hour drive. So he said, I wanted to come home. So an hour, 45 minutes or so is an hour to, a little less maybe is ideal. And he loves it. But then he tears his ACL. Completely tears his ACL. And then when he tried to come back, partially tears the same ACL again. Decides to have a second surgery, sit out the second season, fully recover. He looks different. He plays different. He feels great. And it really showed. And he talked about the mental struggles. He really struggled with what he was going through. He hated watching. And he talked about the frustrations too, that it got frustrating at times that he got there and people forgot about him.
Right.
He was like, I got here and people forgot who I was because he had a good year at Arkansas and he came in with a lot of attention. Like, oh, they got Colin Clay. Like this is a good pickup for the defensive line. And then he gets hurt and no one knows he's there. In fact, his little brother Warren, the Cowboy. OSU fans know him, Warren the Cowboy. 5 years old, got more famous than him.
Oh yeah,
real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asked about that, and he said, "Yeah, I love it." He said he really likes it because Colin doesn't like the attention as much. He said that takes the attention away from me.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They said they have similar personalities, but he's a little more quiet than Warren. He said even that day he was on the sideline when it happened. He was surprised by Warren's outburst. He said he's usually full of energy and usually kind of turned up, but not as much as he was, and he'd never seen that. And so now
great.
It's blown up, and he loves it.
Yeah, it is. That's great. Really important piece of the defensive line puzzle going forward, because I was curious. I thought they might move Tyler Lacey inside to almost full-time.
Yes.
Because of the need.
He started on the edge. He pretty much played edge.
Yeah, he did. He really stayed out there quite a bit. Did move in and play some defensive tackle like he always does. But if they can limit the number of snaps they ask him to go inside, keep him on the edge some, I think he's more effective out there in terms of production.
Yeah.
I think he can be an effective defensive tackle but not necessarily making tackles, making sacks. But I think on the edge he can be a really productive guy out there, and if they can keep getting production from Colin Clay and Xavier Ross in that interior spot. That's really important, because defensive tackle was we know about all the depth of defensive end. Defensive tackle was not as deep.
No, not at all.
It's a much different game in there.
And part of that question of depth was Colin Clay, what he could provide.
Right.
And he's providing a lot already. He had, 5 tackles
on
Saturday?
Yeah,
which
tackles
is really
for
good.
loss. Yeah, it was that's a big number for a defensive tackle. So really important what they got out of him. Now, I know you talked to Brennan Presley as well.
We'll save him for a minute.
Yeah, we'll hang on.
You talked to
Taylor
Maturko, right?
I did, yes, exactly. And Maturko, we talked a lot about the challenges of playing with 3 different centers over the last 3 games, because you've had Preston Wilson, who got hurt. Joe Michalski filled in. Then the next week they go to Eli Russ. He gets hurt for a little bit. Michalski comes back in.
Now they go back to Michalski.
Then they go back to Michalski this week. So you had 3 games in a row with a different starter at center each game. And he said, Maturko said, it's really almost been seamless. He said,
really,
it's been really solid the way that they've transitioned between the 3, because they all have a deep understanding of what they need to be in, what the calls are. Michalski started 4 games at the end of last year after Danny Goodlewski got hurt. Russ is a guy who's been around. I don't know how much he had actually played center before this year. I didn't really realize that he was playing that much center until he was backing up Michalski. But they've got good communicators in that position. And they've obviously got guys around them that understand the offense and what they need. So it's been a fairly seamless transition between the 3 guys. We'll see what happens this week. They really need Preston Wilson back at some point. Wouldn't hurt to have him back this week. Like we talked about earlier, good chance I think that he probably is back.
Yeah.
Because
if you're suiting up and doing what he was doing, I like the odds there. Pure speculation.
Right.
But I like the odds there.
Yeah. Hunter Woodard we know less about. We'll see what the situation is there. Jason Queso Brooks filled in for him at right guard.
Queso's been really good.
He's been, he had the blow up against Arizona State when he got the couple of penalties. He played like 8 plays and got penalized twice for 25 yards.
Yeah, that was
bad. And we didn't see him the rest of the day. But he's been really reliable since then for the most part.
I thought we might not see him for the rest of the season at that point. Like I thought they might be done with this guy for a long time.
Yeah. So he was always that guy that we thought was sort of the 6th man of that group. and it turns out that that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think he could play center, or they probably would have had him there. But guard or tackle, he was the next guy in, and
he's
that's
a six
the case
man.
right
You
now.
don't always have your center as a six man in basketball, right?
Exactly.
So he's a six man.
Yeah, there you go. But Materko talked about that. Talked about some of the challenges that he has faced in getting used to the pace of a game and playing a full game, and those sorts of things, because he hadn't really played a full game throughout his career up until this point. Now he's done it 7 weeks in a row, and that left side of the line I think is holding up better than I thought it might when you had Etienne making his first starts over there, Materko moving from tackle to guard and making his first starts. They've held up better than I thought. I think there's more potential for growth on that side of the line as well, but they've been pretty solid over there.
Yeah.
All right, you wanna share
Brandon
your
Presley.
all the now let me say I was really disappointed. I got busy with other stuff.
And you didn't
get
get over
a
to
chance
Brennan?
talk to Brennan. I really wanted to, because it's always entertaining. 100%.
It is, and I will say I will tease part of Brennan here for our Stone Cloud 6-pack tonight.
Right.
For our draft portion, I asked Brennan his answers for it, so I will give those later.
Very nice.
Something's going to hit you like an anvil with
Oh
those.
yes, I like it.
That's good. It's going to
Bring
be.
it on.
It's fun, but we did talk to him about his punt, the muff punt, and shout out to Marshall Scott here, Pistols Fire, and he said, hand to heart, did you touch it? I said, I did not touch it. He still swears he did not touch the football, and I believe him because I still didn't see it touch the ball on the video and on the replay. So Brennan standing by that, and I said, did the coaches really get on you for that? He said no, and he started explaining. He said there was no rotation on the ball. It just kind of was straight and kind of floated into the wind.
Little knuckleball action.
Yeah, and just really, he said, I got there, and I thought, I don't know that I'm comfortable catching this with the space he had. So he tried to get out of the way, and he made the decision too late. And that's what happened. He said, they didn't really get on me too much. He said, I just got to make a quicker decision on it. And so he learned from it. But, yeah, he talked about that. He talked about Stephon Johnson Jr. and how he emerged quick, and he loves the confidence of him. Said his favorite catch on Saturday was one on a slant. He went up, and about the same time the ball got to him, it got to the corner, and he took it away from the corner. He said that was the most impressive catch he had all day. And I thought on a long list of catches that Stephon Johnson had the other day, that's most impressive. Is to a receiver is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Thought about his brothers learning and coming along. Really enjoyed talking about his brother and his ability to get on the field right now, because Braylon's getting on the field more and more each week. I thought it was interesting. He said Braylon dropped a pass, and I thought, well, Spencer threw it behind him.
Yeah.
But he didn't mention anything about that. He said Braylon dropped it and it didn't bother him.
Yeah.
It didn't bother Braylon like it would have bothered him as a freshman.
Right.
And so he said that's a good sign of growth.
Yeah.
The other interesting tidbit, he was asked that, like, does he kind of respect Deuce Vaughn more for being a little guy like Brennan? And he said, I actually do. And he said he went and saw it. He said, I think it was last year that he went and sought out Deuce Vaughn to say, hey, man, I appreciate what you're doing and stuff. And I thought that was really interesting from one smaller player to another small player. That they kind of have like a bond from afar about that. I thought that was pretty interesting.
They're fun-sized.
They are fun-sized.
Yeah.
Or yes, they're fun-sized.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do want you mentioned Stephon Johnson Jr. That's probably our big omission, not talking more about him at this point. You've got a story coming up on him, which you don't have to give away all of that. But for a guy as a freshman, true freshman, who was sort of an afterthought in the recruiting class, he was the last guy added after Talon Shetron and Braylon Presley had already signed in December. He comes along in February, not a lot known about him, arrives in June, and has obviously just impressed since then. When we got to the beginning of the season and it became clear that he was going to play and not redshirt, it was an eye-opening
Yeah, because you had Talon Shetron, who's a 4-star, one of the top receivers in the country.
Right.
And he's playing more than Talon. Brennan attributed a lot of it to confidence, said that just he came in fully confident and felt like he belonged, and really made plays early and kept it going and isn't afraid of the moment. He said he really seizes the opportunity he's given every chance. And so he said, I wasn't surprised Saturday that he did so well.
How quickly, outside of the team, among the media, does the nickname Boogie catch on?
I think pretty quick. I wanted to
so
ask Brennan if he lived up to the name very well, but I didn't get a chance.
Sounds like he does, from my understanding.
From everyone I've talked to,
Yeah, there was a video of him dancing on social media from Oklahoma State.
Boogie Nights.
That's right. Yeah. that could get problematic. But I'm all for it. So, all right. With that, anything else before we pop the top on the first of the Stone Cloud
No,
six-pack?
I think we're good.
I think we're ready
it's
for
time
it.
for our six-pack, everybody.
Yes, exactly.
This is the fun part of the show.
That's right. Again, a reminder: go put those score predictions in the comments, and we'll drink a beer for you next week.
I still did my usual research, so here we go.
Yes, the usual research of 0 for Jacob.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Going to talk a little bit about running backs. We haven't gotten into a lot of running back talk today. We're going to start over or under 2.5 running backs with at least 5 touches on Saturday at Kansas State. Running backs.
Over.
Going over?
I'm going with 3.
You think 3 guys?
I think all 3 of the running backs they use are going to touch the ball 5 or more times.
I'm going under.
Okay.
I think I think Dom comes back and is fine.
Okay, yeah.
Carries the majority of the load against
That's fair.
kind of gritty, tough, opposition.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the other 2 guys play. I don't see both of them getting to 5 touches.
Okay.
I think 2 guys will get to 5 touches, not all 3. But I won't be surprised if it ends up being all 3 if they spread things out a little bit more. The other wild card in that neither of us addressed. We don't know for sure that Dom Richardson will be able to play.
Exactly. That's true.
We don't know his injury situation.
I'm going to guess he's playing.
I would assume so.
That's
I
just
would
a
expect.
guess.
Right. All right. Running back on the other side. We talked all about this. Run the ball, stop the run. Over or under 5.6 yards per carry for Kansas State's Deuce Vaughn.
Just for Deuce Vaughn?
Deuce Vaughn only.
I'm going under.
Are you really?
He hurts them more in the passing game, I think.
That's fair.
Than he does rushing the ball.
That's fair. I can see that.
They really struggled covering those wheel routes last week.
They had a rough time with that.
That was brutal.
That was really
so
rough.
I'm not they're going to run their wheel route. I think she's going to be looking for that more. They throw a lot of screens to Deuce.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be. I think he's going to hurt them more in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, yardage wise, than running back.
All right. I think my gut feeling. I'm going over.
Okay.
I think that they have some stuff designed that maybe Oklahoma State isn't ready for.
Okay.
Where they see some areas where they can attack with the run game, and they know they're going to have to do that because they're not going to know what they've got at quarterback until late in the week, most likely. So I think that they've been prepping for what they've got to do with the run game. I think they find some success with it.
That's fair.
I still think Oklahoma State wins the game. I'm not going that far. How about the line for this game?
Well, it started at 1.5 for OSU, right?
It
started even. It's a pick'em.
Started as a pick'em on Tipico, the site that our organization uses. I saw early lines with Kansas State favored by 3, and from pick'em to Kansas State -3, it quickly moved on Tipico to OSU -1.5.
Yeah.
And now it swung back the other way.
Yeah, Kansas State -1.5. Who knows?
It's been wild. It's been really crazy.
I'm still picking OSU like you.
I'm sticking with that as well.
What's our third beer here?
All right, third of the Stone Cloud six-pack, the last of the football questions. Over or under 3.5 penalties for Oklahoma State this week? They're averaging right at, 3.86 per game, I believe.
I'm going over.
Going over this week?
I'm going over this week. They're on the road, first of all. And they had 2 last week.
That's right.
Technically.
That's right.
They didn't get assessed.
They got flagged twice.
Yes.
Never penalized.
So I think I'm going to go over. I just feel like they're going to run into some sort of issue there.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm going over.
Yeah.
The road reason is the biggest thing that it looms. You just always see that.
Yeah.
So that seems to be like this is probably going to be the case. I'm going over.
It's not going to
go
crazy over. Actually, it's going to be like 4. It's going to, maybe 5.
Yeah.
It's not going to go crazy over because this is a very disciplined team.
Right.
That's not going to go crazy on these penalties.
Last week, I know so much got made nationally about the 14-0 penalty discrepancy. Yeah. Last week was not terribly out of character for this Oklahoma State team.
No.
They're a very disciplined team. They're, tied for second nationally in fewest penalties per game right now.
Yeah. And, first, they're the number 1 team in Power 5 with penalty yards per game.
Right.
They're tied there, I think, atop with Kentucky or someone, I think.
Right.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, that takes us to the end of the football portion.
All right. Now we get to have a lot of fun here.
Exactly. It's draft time. We've already discussed all the fun things going on here at Stone Cloud for Halloween on Saturday. Talked about they're getting candy a block over from here right now as we speak. So
you've probably seen some of the kids walk by behind us. They come in. We saw a couple Harry Potters earlier.
So that's the draft topic. But we're doing a little bit different. Halloween candy is the draft topic.
All right.
But we're shaking it up a little bit this week. Going 2 you love and 1 you hate.
Right.
So your two favorites.
Do you want Brennan's first?
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
we could dissect Brennan Presley's.
Absolutely.
So Brennan Presley is the candy connoisseur on this team.
No doubt.
So I made sure to ask him. I said, "Hey, Scott and I are doing this podcast tonight. This is what our draft is. What is your answers?" And he's going to blow you away with some of this. So his two favorites. His first favorite, Snickers. Okay, I can accept that. His second favorite's candy corn.
It makes me question everything I've ever heard about Brennan Presley.
Yes, and I said, hold on, candy corn, why? He said, dude, I love candy corn. That's all I got out of him. I said, no one puts that as their favorite. And he just kept going. His least favorite, Three Musketeers, which still blows my mind, too, because how do you pick candy corn over a Three Musketeers?
Right?
No. Brennan.
Dude, I don't know. I never know what's going on in his
This is
head.
also the guy that likes the mini Starburst over the full-size Starburst.
He does, yeah.
And he likes to hand them out with his gross hand during practice. Colby Harvey-Peel called him out on that last year. So maybe we shouldn't trust Brennan too much anymore.
Handing him warm, gooey mini Starburst.
Yeah, that sounds
before practice.
gross.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Just like candy corn.
Yeah. All right. I do believe it's your turn to go first this week.
Ooh.
So we will throw it to you for the first that you love.
My first candy that I love is a Reese's pumpkin.
Oh, very specific. I like
the
that.
Reese's pumpkins
Right?
at Halloween are the best.
That's solid. That's really strong.
I don't know why its shape makes a difference, but it really makes a difference.
It does. The pumpkins are great. The Christmas trees at Christmas
tree,
time.
the eggs
Spectacular.
at Easter.
Right?
But it's the Reese's pumpkins.
That's strong. That was in the running for my number 2 spot. Not
Okay.
the pumpkin specifically, but a Reese's. Number 1, Tootsie Roll. Not even close.
Tootsie Roll, okay. This is the regular Tootsie Roll, not the flavored ones?
Flavored ones are strong. I'm not downgrading the flavored ones, but no, I'm sticking with the original Tootsie Roll. I have an obsession. I have to keep them out of the house. If I bring a bag into the house, it's gone the next day.
Right.
I cannot do it because it's such a small little item.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're doing anything bad when you eat a Tootsie Roll.
That's bad.
It's rough. It's really rough.
I like the flavored ones a little bit more. I'm a fruit candy kind of guy more than
any particular flavor.
I mean, I'm always a cherry guy.
Okay.
I always like the cherry fruit.
I really like the lime flavor.
Yeah,
in
the
those.
lime's good too.
That's good.
Banana's good too.
I hate banana.
Oh,
nothing banana for me.
All right, that's fair. My second one. It's easy for me to throw out Starburst because Starburst is my favorite candy. I love Starburst, but I got to go something different on Halloween, right? I got to be different.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with the dark chocolate Hershey bars, little mini
that's
dark
good.
chocolate Hershey ones.
That's good. I like that.
Really, the multi-pack. You give me any of those, I'm gonna eat them.
Okay.
But I love the dark chocolate ones.
That's
My
good.
grandma and grandpa loved them too, so that's kind of a little bit of why. But I love the dark chocolate ones.
Yeah. All right. To stick with the Halloween theme, the Halloween aspect of this conversation, I'll point out that my favorite candy bar is Twix over anything.
That's fair. I love the little mini ones.
They're great. But the mini Milky Way, I'm obsessed with.
Yeah, the dark one too.
Especially the dark one.
Yeah.
I would probably actually go the dark over the regular chocolate.
Should have been that. That's a good number two.
It's a really good fun size treat.
I love a good mini Kit Kat too.
Those are good too.
Man,
those are good too.
This is tough.
Yep.
Yeah, this is tough.
It is. There's a lot of good options out there. All right. Now it gets really interesting. The one you hate. The one
this
that
is
you
not
would
interesting for me
wipe
at all.
off the planet.
This is easy. It's not candy corn. As much as I just made fun of Brennan Presley, it's not candy corn. It's Whoppers.
Oh,
I hate those little malt ball things. They're terrible. They're disgusting. The texture's awful. I hate them. I hate Whoppers.
I will not. I used to. I still love chocolate, but when I was trick or treating on a regular basis or eating candy on a regular basis, I would take the Whopper, put it in my mouth till all the chocolate melted, then just spit it out.
That's the smart play.
Because that's the only thing that's any good about a Whopper is the chocolate.
Because every time I get those, I'm disappointed.
Oh, absolutely.
I just hate them so much.
Yeah. No. Horrible.
Yeah.
Random thought that just popped into my head because it's similar to a Whopper, but very different. Milk Duds. I think the caramel has gotten less sticky over the years.
Maybe
I don't think it's as
I like
sticky
Milk
now.
Duds. I will eat a lot of Milk Duds.
I don't think the caramel's as sticky as it was when we were little kids.
I'll have to see this year.
Yeah, might just.
I think we're taking Cohen trick or treating, so I think
you better.
Yeah, he's 2 now. It's a good time to start.
Oh yeah, it's time to start.
So,
any idea what he's going to be yet?
A dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Strong. Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Taden's going. He's 13. We're getting close to
Oh,
the
about to
cutoff.
lose the costumes.
Right. Yeah. So, but I'm counting on him going because I need the candy fix.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm relying on that. The candy that I am fully prepared to wipe off the planet. Let me say my top three. If we'd gone 3 on this, would have been Whoppers would have been in my top 3.
Yeah.
Candy corn in my top 3.
Yeah, me too.
Number 1, far and away, not even close. Butterfinger.
What? I like Butterfingers.
I hate Butterfinger.
Really?
It tastes like chocolate-covered cardboard to me.
Okay.
I despise it. Never understood the fascination with it.
Yeah?
I wanted to like it really bad because I love The Simpsons, and Bart was pumping those things like crazy. He was selling them
Don't
all
ever
over
take
the
my
place.
Butterfinger.
Exactly. I cannot do it.
Oh,
It
wow, okay.
disgusts me.
Okay.
I want to like it really bad, and I can't.
My problem with Butterfingers, they just really stick to your teeth.
Yeah.
They're just hard for that. But
Yeah.
I like Butterfingers though.
I
but
can't do
but
it.
I'm not gonna fault you for that. Like that's I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But at least we're on the same page with Whoppers and candy corn. Get
Yeah.
that garbage out of here.
Listen, I'm gonna have to discuss this more with Brennan because I don't know how I can communicate effectively with someone who
Yeah.
likes candy corn.
It's not good.
No, it's not. Double checking to make sure we didn't. If we covered everything we wanted to cover today,
I think we did.
I think we did. I think we got it all
have.
wrapped up. All right. Well, good stuff. Holt my beer, excellent choice. I'm gonna go
Yes.
try some of that once we
Yeah,
finish.
I'm gonna try some of that once we finish
Yeah,
too.
exactly. It's a good week here at Stone Cloud for some of the rotators. Of course, they got all the core beers that are
Yep.
always fantastic. Listen, Neon Sunshine is top
Still
of my
great.
list. It's fantastic.
Still
fantastic
great.
stuff. All right. Well, that'll do it from here. Remember, we'll have our Twitter Spaces / postgame podcast from Manhattan on Saturday night. Seemed to be about 10 o'clock or so when we were firing that up last Saturday, or
Yeah.
about regularly
Yeah,
after the 2:30 starts. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be back here next Tuesday night. We won't have any more Halloween themed.
No, we're gonna be
drafts. So
November 1st.
We'll have to come with something else.
Maybe
Because we-
Thanksgiving theme coming up
Right.
in November.
Exactly. Have to see what direction the draft goes at that point. But thanks to the folks here at Stone Cloud, 917 South Husband here in Stillwater. Come by and check them out. Thanks to the folks back in the office, Chris handling all the editing and such in place of Addison, who we greatly miss. Gave her a great shout-out last week,
Yes.
but we definitely miss her.
Yes.
But we appreciate Chris jumping in and handling the production side of the podcast, and we thank you for watching the Cowboy Chronicles.